Hey y'all, it's Chris from Frontsite. Do you want to ban the ATF? Do you want to dismantle the ATF as a whole and disperse their agents among the other three-letter alphabet soup agencies we have out there? Do you want to make sure your Second Amendment rights are protected and you don't have to worry about government overreach? So do I. But I don't really think banning the ATF or getting rid of their agents is necessarily the best option. And I want to explain why. So in FY 2026, the White House has decided that they're going to merge the DEA and the ATF, two large three-letter agencies that are going to have an enormous amount of power and probably very little oversight, and which could lead to overreach if the right person is in the position of power. Fortunately for us, the Trump administration is pro-Second Amendment. They do want to protect our rights. However, that could very well change in the future if somebody else who's less friendly to the Second Amendment gets elected. That's why I believe we need to make sure that we can put laws in place locally and federally to make sure that our rights are more protected than they were before. So destroying and dismantling the ATF, is that the right move? I don't think so. I think in the right hands, the ATF can be a really legitimate tool. I think you could use the ATF for what they've already been doing most recently, going after individuals that use terrorist-like threats and attacks on U.S. soil. For example, those individuals, like we had one here in Charleston, where an individual tried to burn some Tesla battery charging stations, where he tossed 3 or 4 Molotov cocktails and tried to burn them down. Well, he caused damage, and that's a problem because each Molotov cocktail is an incendiary device, and per ATF and the federal law, each incendiary device can cost you 5 years in prison, and there is no downgrading that. It's a mandatory minimum for each incendiary device used. So the individual that they caught could face up to 20 plus years in prison because he used 4 Molotov cocktails. It's kind of scary. So lesson one, don't be an idiot and try to burn stuff down that doesn't belong to you. It should be, common sense, but here we are. And 2, just because you think the law is stupid doesn't mean you can just break the law anyway. As an example, if you put a short-barreled rifle and a buttstock together, that is against the law, unless you have a certain classification of license. Do I think that law is kind of ridiculous? Yeah, kind of do. But I'm not here to make the laws. I only am here to adhere to the law and make sure that I find every loophole I can to get around it. You know what I mean? So how do we get rid of ATF overreach and oversight? Well, again, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So when we get these little wins, like suppressors are coming off the list, so now you can just purchase one without having to worry about the ATF signing off on it. That's awesome. You're still gonna have a background check. It's still on the list, but at the end of the day, it's a win. We don't have to spend $200 for the tax stamp, and you don't have to wait 6 months to a year for them to say you can have said suppressor while it sits in some gun case somewhere waiting for you to come by and pick it up. So that's a win. If we can continue these little wins here and there as we move forward, I'm down with that. And I think that's what we really need as a country, is to just try to get the little wins every once in a while, and we should be fine. Would I like to see the ATF dismantled? No. I don't want to see the ATF dismantled. I think the ATF, like I said before, could be a useful tool if it's used appropriately. And that's what we need to do as Americans, is to make sure we continue to elect people that are going to push for fair and equitable use of our government agencies, and not to allow them to overreach and push some kind of agenda. So if you want to know more about the big beautiful bill, if you want to know more about what the ATF and the DEA merger is going to do, I'm not an expert in anything related to that kind of stuff, but I do follow Brandon Herrera, the AK guy, and I also follow Mr. Guns and Gear. If you want to look up their information, see what they do, see what they've been saying about it, I suggest looking them up and just hearing what they have to say about the subject. Brandon Herrera especially has talked ad nauseum about dismantling and getting rid of the ATF. But at the end of the day, it also doesn't need to merge with the DEA. So give those guys a look, and let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to talk more about the big beautiful bill, if you want to hear more about what's coming down the pike for either suppressors or short-barreled rifles or tax stamps or whatever, I can do some more research. Just let me know in the comments what you'd like to hear about. But I appreciate you following my content. I appreciate you subscribing to this channel. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the revolution. Welcome to Frontsite.